The council chamber stretched higher than any cathedral on Earth. Thousands of alien representatives filled the floating platforms that circled the central speaking floor. Some had scales, others had fur, and many had features that human minds would struggle to categorize. But on this day, they all shared one expression that translated across every species: fear. Ambassador of the coalition stood at the center platform. His four arms moved in practiced gestures as holographic data filled the air around him. Charts, graphs, technical readouts that would mean nothing to most observers, but the council members knew exactly what they were seeing. "The evidence is irrefutable," said. His translator rendered his clicking language into something approximating human speech. "The species known as humanity has developed quantum consciousness technology. They have crossed the forbidden threshold." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some species looked confused. The younger civilizations, perhaps. The ones who had joined the Galactic Concordat after the Cascade Wars. They didn't remember what happened when quantum consciousness technology fell into the wrong hands. They hadn't seen 17 civilizations reduced to scattered atoms across 12 parsecs of space. But the older species remembered. They remembered very well. "The protocols are clear," continued. "Any civilization that develops this technology must be stopped immediately. There can be no exceptions, no delays, no mercy." The human ambassador stood in her designated section. Ambassador Lisa Torres had represented Earth for 3 years. She had negotiated trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and mutual defense pacts. She had made friends among dozens of alien species. She thought humanity had finally found its place among the stars. Now she watched that place crumble around her. "This is a mistake," Torres said, her voice amplified across the chamber. "We're not weaponizing anything. Our research is focused on understanding dark matter interactions. It's pure science. We're not trying to—" "Intent is irrelevant," interrupted. "The Cascade Wars began with pure science as well. Every species believes they will be the exception. Every species believes they can control forces that should not be controlled. History proves otherwise." Torres looked around the chamber, searching for allies. The delegation avoided her eyes. The representative who had shared drinks with her just last week studied his data pad intently. The ambassador, whose daughter Torres had saved from drowning during a diplomatic retreat, stared at the floor. No one would meet her gaze. "I call for a vote," said. "All those in favor of invoking Protocol 7 against the human civilization." The voting display lit up. Green lights appeared across the chamber. One by one, every delegation activated their approval. Torres watched the count climb. 50 votes, 100, 500, 1,000. Not a single red light appeared, not one. "The vote is unanimous," announced. "The Concordat fleet will commence sterilization operations immediately. May the cosmos forgive us this necessary evil." Torres tried to scream a warning to Earth, but her communication link was already dead. The Concordat had cut humanity off from the galaxy. No one would hear their final words. No one would remember their protests. History would record only that humanity had been eliminated before they could threaten the peace of the galaxy. She collapsed in her seat as alien security forces moved to escort her away. Through the transparent walls of the council chamber, she could see the first Concordat dreadnoughts entering, heading toward Earth, heading home. Commander Sarah stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force cruiser Valiant. The ship orbited Luna, one of 40 vessels that made up humanity's proud but modest defense fleet. They had built these ships hoping they would never be needed, hoping that joining the Galactic Concordat meant safety, protection. They had been so stupidly naive. "Ma'am, we're detecting massive signatures," her sensor officer called out. "Multiple contacts, I count. My God, I count over 300 vessels emerging around Earth." Stomach dropped. 300 ships. The entire human fleet wouldn't stand a chance against 300 Concordat dreadnoughts. "Sound General Alert," she ordered. "All ships, battle stations. Get me a channel to Fleet Command." The communications officer shook her head. "Fleet Command isn't responding. Neither is Earth Defense Central. Ma'am, I'm not getting any response from Luna Base either. It's like everything just went dead." Understood immediately. The Concordat had used quantum jamming technology. They had cut off every human communication system simultaneously. Earth's military couldn't coordinate, couldn't warn each other. Each ship, each station, each colony would face the attack alone. "Visual on main screen," said quietly. The flickered to life. Around Earth's blue curve, reality seemed to tear itself open. Massive vessels emerged from, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved with terrible purpose, taking up positions in a perfect sphere around the planet. Had studied military history. She knew what that formation meant: total bombardment, no escape. "Ma'am, they're charging weapons," the tactical officer said, his voice cracked. "All ships, they're all charging weapons." "Evasive maneuvers," ordered, knowing it was pointless. "Return fire, target the nearest." The sky turned white. The Concordat weapons weren't missiles or lasers. They were kinetic impactors, rods of dense matter accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. When they hit Earth's atmosphere, they released energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. Hundreds of them, thousands of them, all at once. Watched through the Ezra died. New York vanished in a flash of light. Beijing, Moscow, Lagos, every major city, every military base, every spaceport. The bombardment was precise and merciless. The Valiant shuddered as Concordat fire found it. Alarms screamed across the bridge. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Life support failing. Reactor containment at critical levels. "Abandon ship," ordered. "All hands to escape pods now." Her crew didn't argue. They ran, stayed at her post, watching through the static field as the rest of Earth's defense fleet died. One by one, bright flowers of destruction bloomed in the black. The Titan, the Resolution, the New Dawn, ships crewed by people she knew, people she had served with, friends. All gone in minutes. Made it to an escape pod with 5 other survivors. As they ejected from the dying Valiant, she caught one last glimpse of Earth. The planet's blue had turned brown and gray. Massive dust clouds from the impacts spread across entire continents. Fires raged where forests and cities had been. The oceans themselves seemed to boil from the kinetic energy. 8.7 billion people had called Earth home that morning. Knew with terrible certainty that most of them were already dead. The rest would die soon as the atmosphere turned toxic and the temperature dropped from all the debris blocking the sun. "Set course for the belt," she told her pilot. "Emergency burn everything the pod has." "Ma'am, that's insane," the pilot said. "We'll run out of air long before." "The Concordat will sweep this entire area looking for survivors," interrupted. "Our only chance is to get far enough out that we're not worth chasing. The mining station at 7 might still be operational, might have supplies. It's a chance." A small chance, a terrible chance, but it was all they had. The escape pod's engines fired, pushing them away from Earth at maximum acceleration. Behind them, the bombardment continued. Forced herself to watch until the planet disappeared from view. She needed to remember. They all needed to remember what had been done. The Concordat ships didn't pursue the tiny escape pod, had gambled correctly. They had bigger targets to eliminate. Mars fell next. The colonies there had 20 minutes warning as they watched Earth die before the dreadnoughts arrived in Martian orbit. The bombardment was just as thorough, just as merciless. 6 million people lived in the Martian domes. They sent desperate pleas for mercy. They transmitted offers of surrender. They tried everything. The Concordat ignored them all. The outer colonies lasted longer simply because it took time for the Concordat fleet to reach them. Europa Station, the mining operations in the asteroid belt, the research facilities on Titan, the agricultural domes on Ganymede. One by one they went dark. Some tried to flee. The Concordat hunted them down. Others tried to hide. The Concordat found them with sensor technology humanity couldn't match. Dr. James was aboard the research vessel Prometheus when the attack began. They had been conducting experiments in the outer system, far from Earth, studying dark matter interactions. It was pure science, the kind of research that the Concordat had always encouraged. Now that research had condemned his entire species to death. The Prometheus had been too far out to help, too far even to watch. They received fragmented reports through quantum communication relays before those relays were destroyed. Earth gone, Mars gone, the colonies gone, all of it in less than a day. This research team consisted of 47 people. They had families on Earth, friends, children, all dead now. The team sat in stunned silence as the reports came in. Some cried, some stared at nothing. Some worked frantically at their stations, trying to find any sign that survivors remained somewhere, anywhere. "Doctor," his assistant said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission, emergency frequency. It's encrypted with Earth Defense Force codes." Leaned over the console, the message was brief, simple, devastating. "This is Commander Sarah to any survivors in the outer system. Earth is gone, the fleet is destroyed. The Concordat is hunting down everyone they can find. We're too few and too scattered to fight back. My orders are simple: disperse, go dark, hide anywhere you can, ration everything, stay alive, and remember what they did to us. Remember what we were, because someday, somehow, we're going to make them answer for this. Out." The transmission ended, played it again, then again. The room remained silent except for the hum of the ship's systems and the occasional sob from his traumatized crew. "What do we do?" someone asked. Looked at his team, at the research equipment around him, at the data from their experiments that had accidentally condemned humanity. An idea began forming in his mind, a terrible, desperate, long-shot idea. "We do exactly what Commander said," he replied. "We hide. We survive, and we figure out why the Concordat was so terrified of our research that they killed 8 billion people to stop it. Because there's something here, something they don't want us to have, and if we can figure out what it is, maybe we can use it to make sure humanity doesn't die completely." He pulled up the data from their latest experiments, quantum consciousness interactions with dark matter. The results had been promising, interesting. They suggested possibilities that mainstream physics said were impossible. Stared at the equations and began to understand. This technology didn't threaten the Concordat militarily. It threatened something far more fundamental. It threatened their control, their power structure, their entire civilization. His hands shook as he the data to isolated storage. If he was right, humanity had stumbled onto something revolutionary, something that could change everything. But first, they had to survive. 3,847 humans remained alive in the scattered remnants of humanity's space presence, against a galaxy that wanted them dead, against impossible odds, with no ships, no weapons, no support, and no hope. They would have to be enough. The transmission began at exactly midnight Galactic Standard Time. It started as a whisper across communication networks that spanned thousands of worlds. A simple message, repeated in 473 languages, spreading through every relay station and data hub in Concordat space. "My name is Commander Sarah. 20 years ago, the Galactic Concordat voted to exterminate humanity. They told you we were developing weapons. They told you we threatened the peace of the galaxy. They lied. This is the truth." The transmission couldn't be stopped. Humanity's invisible network had spent 2 decades infiltrating every system, every station, every relay. The message propagated through them all simultaneously, copying itself faster than it could be deleted. Within minutes, billions of beings across the galaxy received it. Then the evidence began to play. Classified Concordat documents appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds. Council meeting recordings where representatives discussed humanity's quantum research. The conclusion was clear in every document. Humanity posed no military threat. The research was purely scientific, but it threatened the economic foundations of Concordat power. One memo was particularly damning. Written by himself, it stated plainly, humanity's quantum consciousness research will make energy scarcity obsolete. Every species will become energy independent. Resource control, the basis of Concordat stability, will collapse. Recommended action: immediate sterilization before research can be shared. They had murdered 8 billion people to protect their monopoly on resources. The galaxy reacted with shock. On Prime, protesters filled the streets demanding answers from their representatives. On the Planetary Council called for a vote of no confidence in their Concordat ambassador. On hundreds of worlds, young species who had always trusted the Concordat began asking difficult questions. But the founding species, the ones who controlled the Concordat, responded differently. "This is propaganda," announced in an emergency broadcast, fabricated by hostile elements seeking to destabilize galactic unity. Humanity was sterilized because they threatened the peace. These documents are forgeries. Except they weren't forgeries, and everyone with access to Concordat archives could verify them. The evidence was real. The conspiracy was real. The lie that had justified genocide was exposed for the entire galaxy to see. Commander watched the galactic reaction from the hidden command center. News feeds from across Concordat space played on holographic screens around her. Some showed support for humanity. Others showed continued fear. Many showed confusion as populations struggled to process that their government had committed genocide to protect its economic interests. "Fleet signatures detected," her sensor officer called out. "Multiple Concordat task forces moving toward the outer systems. They're beginning a sweep pattern. They're looking for us." Had expected this. The moment humanity revealed itself, the Concordat would try to finish what they started. She had gambled that exposing the truth would fracture their support, that other species would question the Concordat's actions, that humanity wouldn't face the attack alone. It was time to see if her gamble would pay off. "Is Doctor ready?" she asked. "His team finished the final tests an hour ago," her communications officer replied. "The pocket dimension generator is operational. They're just waiting for your signal." Took a deep breath. 20 years of hiding, 20 years of survival, 20 years of careful planning. Everything came down to the next few hours. "Tell Doctor to proceed," she said, "and prepare to broadcast our demonstration to the entire galaxy. Let's show them what the Concordat was really afraid of." Deep in the asteroid base, stood before the device his father had designed and he had built. It looked simple. A circular ring 10 meters across, lined with quantum field generators. But the mathematics behind it represented humanity's greatest achievement, the technology the Concordat had tried to eliminate. "All systems green," his assistant reported. "Power at maximum, field generators aligned, we're ready to activate." Thought about his father, who had spent his last years working on these equations. About his grandmother, who had kept humanity alive through impossible odds. About the 8 billion people who had died without knowing what their sacrifice would lead to. "Activate the dimensional gate," he ordered. The quantum generators hummed to life. Energy built within the ring. Space itself began to twist, reality bending in ways that shouldn't be possible. Then, with a soundless ripple that every sensor in the asteroid detected, a hole opened in the universe. Through the circular gate could see into another space, a pocket dimension, empty now but stable, permanent, a place where humanity could build without interference, where they could exist beyond the reach of anyone who wanted to hurt them. "It works," someone whispered. "My God, it actually works." smiled, begin moving our ships through, and broadcast what we're doing to every sensor array in range. Make sure the Concordat sees this. Across the outer system, hidden bases began to move. Ships that humanity had salvaged and rebuilt over 20 years. Stations that had housed their survivor population. Manufacturing equipment. Genetic archives. Everything they would need to rebuild their civilization. One by one, they passed through the dimensional gates and disappeared from normal space. The Concordat fleet arrived to find the asteroid field mostly empty. Their sensors detected the gates, but by the time they moved to intercept, the last of humanity's assets had vanished into pocket dimensions. The fleet commander stared at his tactical display in confusion. "Where did they go?" he demanded. His sensor officer had no answer. The humans had simply ceased to exist in normal space. No trace, no trail to follow, nothing. Then new signatures appeared, not near the Concordat fleet but scattered across the system. Hundreds of ships emerged from pocket dimensions, their hulls surrounded by visible distortion fields. They phased in and out of reality, there one moment and gone the next. The Concordat fleet fired. Kinetic impactors and energy beams lanced through space, but the weapons passed through the human ships harmlessly. The phasing fields made them impossible to hit. They existed between dimensions, only partially present in normal space. "This is Commander Sarah to the Concordat fleet," her voice broadcast across every frequency. "You tried to kill us once. You failed. You cannot kill what you cannot touch. You cannot erase what you cannot find. Humanity has evolved beyond your reach." The demonstration continued for an hour. Human ships appeared and disappeared across the system. They demonstrated technology that made them invulnerable, untouchable. The Concordat fleet could do nothing except watch as humanity proved they could no longer be threatened with extinction. Then broadcast her final message, not just to the Concordat fleet, but to every world in the galaxy. "For 20 years we survived in the dark. We rebuilt from nothing. We lived with the pain of what was done to us. We could have hidden forever in our pocket dimensions. We could have disappeared and left you all behind. But we chose differently. We chose to come back, to show you what the Concordat tried to hide." She paused, letting her words reach across the galaxy. "The quantum consciousness technology that condemned us. The technology the Concordat killed 8 billion people to suppress. We're giving it to you, all of you, every species, every world. Complete plans and instructions, broadcasting now to every network we can reach. Learn it. Build it. Free yourselves from the species who controlled you through resource scarcity." The data began flowing. Terabytes of information. Complete technical specifications for quantum consciousness technology. Instructions for building dimensional gates. Mathematics for creating stable pocket dimensions. Everything humanity had learned, offered freely to every species in the galaxy. "You murdered us to keep this secret," continued, "to protect your control over energy and resources, but you can't stop this anymore. You can't kill everyone. The technology is free now. Every species can become independent. Every world can create its own pocket dimensions with unlimited resources. Your monopoly is over." On worlds across the galaxy, scientists downloaded the data. Engineers studied the specifications. Governments realized what this meant. The entire economic structure of the Concordat, based on controlling rare resources and energy production, was about to collapse. Some worlds celebrated. The younger species, the ones who had always struggled under resource quotas and economic restrictions, saw this as liberation. Others panicked. The species whose power came from resource control realized they were about to lose everything. The Concordat Council convened in emergency session, stood once again at the center platform, but this time he faced a hostile crowd. Representatives from dozens of species demanded answers, demanded to know why they had been lied to, why humanity had been murdered for discovering something that could have freed everyone. "The council must resign," the representative declared. "You committed genocide. You lied to us all. You killed an entire species to protect your economic interests." "We did what was necessary," insisted. "The Cascade Wars." "The Cascade Wars were a lie too," the representative interrupted. "We've reviewed the historical records. The Cascade Wars weren't started by quantum consciousness technology. They were started by the founding species trying to suppress it, just like you tried to suppress humanity. How many times have you done this? How many species have you eliminated to protect your power?" The council chamber erupted in chaos. Species who had trusted the Concordat for generations now questioned everything. War crime tribunals were demanded. The founding species tried to maintain control, but their authority crumbled under the weight of revealed truth. Commander watched the chaos unfold from her ship. Around her, humanity's fleet maintained position just outside normal space, ready to phase back in if needed, ready to disappear if threatened. They had proven they could do both. "We're receiving messages from over 40 different species," her communications officer reported. "Most are thanking us for the technology. Some are asking for help implementing it. A few are offering alliance." Felt something she hadn't felt in 20 years. Hope, not just for humanity's survival but for something more: justice, recognition, a chance to build something new. "Doctor, how long until the pocket dimension colonies are ready for permanent settlement?" she asked. His voice came through her communicator. "We can begin moving the population in within a month. The first dimension is stable, large enough for several billion people, and we can create more as needed, as many as we want." Nodded slowly. Humanity had a new home now, a place where they could never be threatened with extinction again. But they weren't done with the galaxy. Not yet. "Broadcast our terms," she ordered. "The Concordat Council must face trial for genocide. Every species involved in the vote to exterminate humanity must answer for their choice. We want full recognition of what was done. We want the truth recorded in every historical archive. We want the galaxy to remember." She paused, considering her next words carefully. "And tell them we're not going away. We're building a new civilization in spaces they can't reach, but we'll be watching. If the Concordat tries this again with another species, we'll know, and we'll stop them. Humanity survived genocide once. We won't let it happen to anyone else." The message went out across the galaxy. Humanity's terms, their demands, their promise to remain vigilant against future atrocities. Some called it blackmail. Others called it justice, but everyone understood the underlying truth. Humanity had been nearly erased from existence. They had survived through determination, ingenuity, and the refusal to surrender. And they had emerged stronger than anyone imagined possible. The Concordat Council eventually collapsed under internal pressure. War crime tribunals began, though justice for genocide could never be complete. You couldn't resurrect the dead, couldn't undo 20 years of pain and loss, but the truth was recorded. The galaxy acknowledged what had been done. And humanity moved forward. In the first pocket dimension, now called New Earth, humanity began building their new civilization. A world that existed outside normal space, accessible only through quantum gates. Parks grew under artificial suns. Cities rose where nothing had existed before. Children played without fear for the first time in a generation. In the central plaza, they built a memorial. 8.7 billion names carved in quantum-locked crystal that would endure until the end of time. Above the names, a simple inscription. "They tried to erase us. They failed. We will never forget, and we will never stop watching." Commander Sarah stood before the memorial on its dedication day. She was 65 now. Her role was changing from military commander to one of the new civilization's leaders. The survival phase was over. The building phase had begun. Stood beside her. At 20, He represented humanity's future, the generation born after the culling, the ones who would never see humanity the same way again. "Do you think it was worth it?" asked quietly. "Coming back, exposing the truth, we could have hidden, been safe." Looked at the names on the memorial. 8 billion people who would never see this new world, who had died believing humanity was about to find its place among the stars, not knowing their place would be bought with their deaths. "We came back because we owed them the truth," she said, "because hiding would have meant the Concordat one, that they could kill a species and face no consequences. That genocide was acceptable if you were strong enough." She turned to, "We're not just building a new civilization, we're building something better, a civilization that remembers what was done to us, that stays vigilant, that never lets it happen again to anyone, that's worth the risk." Nodded slowly. Around them children played, people laughed, life continued. Humanity had been nearly erased from the galaxy, but they had survived, they had adapted, they had become something new. And they remained unbroken. In the years that followed, other species began creating their own pocket dimensions. The economic structure of the old Concordat dissolved as resource scarcity became obsolete. New alliances formed. New conflicts emerged. The galaxy changed in fundamental ways. But through it all, humanity watched. From their pocket dimensions, they maintained their invisible network. They monitored galactic affairs. They kept their promise. If any species attempted genocide again, humanity would know, and they would intervene. They had earned that right through survival, through refusing to surrender even when death seemed certain, through 20 years of patience and planning, through the determination to remain human despite everything done to strip their humanity away. The galaxy had tried to erase humanity. Instead, humanity had become unforgettable, a reminder that even the weakest species, if determined enough, could survive the unsurvivable, could turn near extinction into resurgence, could transform tragedy into strength. Humanity was nearly erased, but humanity remained, still alive, still watching, still unbroken.